Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the best brawlers for Power League. So not necessarily the best brawlers in the game, but some brawlers which often get overlooked in Power League, won't be banned out, and just pretty solid overall within this meta. So before we jump into things, make sure you're using a creator code. That'd be greatly appreciated. Without further ado, let's hop into it. Right, guys, jumping into the first brawler, which I think you should be picking a lot in Power League and definitely maxing out. It is Belle. So Belle is always a super consistent brawler. It's always one that you can always rely on depending on whether it's a long range map, and you can still use her in those close range maps as well. So in terms of bounty, she's a really solid option. You've got the traps, which really help confirm kills when you're talking about shooting star, and also dry season in particular. She's like the best pick on that map. And then you got some more open maps like Backyard Bowl, where she can definitely counter a lot of the meta brawlers there. And then, you know, she's a decent gem carrier. She's actually really underrated in heist on those more open maps like Safe Zone and Kaboom Canyon. And then you even see her on maps like Ring of Fire, again, where those traps can just be so vital in gaining back control. So I think Belle is a super underrated brawler within the Power League meta. So jumping into the next brawler, I think you should be playing a lot more in Power League and maxing out. It is Colette. So Colette has improved a lot within this meta. She counters so many of the meta brawlers, and I just think she's a more consistent pick. She's banned out sometimes in heist, but still in lower ranks, maybe people don't realize how good Colette is. In heist, she's always a safe pick, whether it's Hot Potato, Kaboom Canyon, or Safe Zone. She's going to get a lot of damage onto that high safe. Everyone pretty much knows that already, but she's slowly creeping into the meta elsewhere as well. She's a fantastic option against tankier brawlers in gem grab. You know, if you can pick her towards like the second, third, or just basically anything that's not first or sixth pick, she's a really good versatile brawler, and you can stop people picking that assassin as a last pick. Really solid there. She's really good even on the longer range maps. You know, people generically pick like Bali, for example, or 8-bit, or something like RT, which is really high HP, which is like a sniper, and Colette can counter that brawler on a more longer range map. So I think she's definitely improved so much within this meta. So jumping into the next brawler, you should be looking to play a lot more in Power League and maxing out. We have a Bali. So I had a brief look at Cryman's top 10. He actually put Bali in a top 10 brawlers in the game, which I'm a little bit surprised about. But, you know, Cryman's a really good player, and it just goes to show how Bali's just improved so much. A lot of people actually question it on my tier list as well, putting Bali so high up on the rankings, but he holds a lot of value in Power League right now. So the good thing about Bali is that, you know, your generic throwers really like Grom, like Tick, like Sprout are actually countered quite hard by those tankier options. But Bali can actually do fairly decent against aggro because he has the slow gadget, and he can also just aim a lot better up close than those other throwers. So that's why he's actually a really good option. Really solid when it comes down to maps like Field Goal, for example. You can get a lot of control. He's actually used a lot in split and parallel plays as well in Hot Zone. And then a lot of the times as well in Power League, people look to ban those other throwers like Sprout, Grom, Tick. So that leaves brawlers like Bali, who's the next best thrower, to then thrive. So for me, he's a fantastic option right now in the meta. So jumping into the next brawler, you should be looking to play a lot more in Power League and max out. It is Daryl. So Daryl isn't by any means like the most OP brawler in the game right now, but he's literally a brawler which I never see banned whatsoever. So people really underestimate Daryl. He's a fantastic option in every single heist map. So it's always good to have like that brawler you can go to on a specific game mode. There's 6 of them, and in heist, Daryl is always that brawler. He's never banned out. Hot Potato, he's fantastic, always getting that aggro. And a lot of the time, he's actually picked as a last pick in Safe Zone, and then sometimes in Kaboom Canyon as well. So, of course, he's amazing in Heist. And then I actually see him sometimes when it comes down to bounty, like Layer Cake, for example, because a lot of good tanky options there. You've also got Brawl, where I think he's massively underrated. Sometimes I'll actually pick him in Pin or Punt, and I'll be able to carry. Of course, you've got to be a good Daryl. And then, again, if other assassin brawlers like Buzz or Ash are banned and you get that 6th pick, he can fulfill that role. I've seen him work so many times in Crystal Arcade in competitive matches. So for me, I think Daryl is extremely underrated, and you should start picking him a lot more. So jumping into the next brawler, you should be looking to max out and play a lot more in Power League. It is Otis. So Otis is a brawler which has been one of the best in the game for such a long time. So I think if you play a lot of the meta brawlers, you know, Otis should already be high enough for you because he's not receiving any nerfs anytime soon, I presume. So yeah, Otis is amazing everywhere. I see him picked pretty much everywhere when it comes down to competitive, mainly because people are pretty scared, especially on some certain maps, that they might go like an aggro pick at the end, and Otis just completely shuts that down. And he's also pretty decent against longer range units. So For example, I've seen Otis literally used everywhere. So I've seen him used even on dry season, seen him used on shooting star even often, because sometimes people pick like Fang as a 5th pick. So then Otis, it's a great last pick counter. You know, layer cake, you see a lot of tanks there, so it's pretty good to go Otis as like a 4th or 5th pick. I've seen him used in Brawl all the time. He's fantastic there. Gem grab as well, everywhere. Heist, he probably is used the least out of most, but still you can get a lot of usage out of him on maps like Kaboom Canyon, using him to scout the grass. And I've seen him in other game modes as well. So I think Otis is always a good option to have, because you always want to have one of those tank counters in your arsenal. Okay, so jumping into the next brawler, you should be looking to max out and play a lot more in Power League. It is Lola. So Lola is a brawler which, again, I never see banned whatsoever, so that is one good tick right there. And then next for me is that Lola is extremely underrated pretty much all of the time. There's like, she comes in peaks and troughs, you know, sometimes she's forgotten, starts to slip down the meta, and then people realize, well, Lola is a fantastic option and she's pretty good against everything. So then she starts rising in the meta again. So you see this every 2 months, I would say, within a competitive meta. But for me, she's just solid across the board. You know, I've seen over the last year or so her used pretty much in every single scenario. Now, I've seen her in shooting stars sometimes. I've seen her a lot of times in bounty. You know, in Brawl, for example, if you're looking for just a passive brawler that can counter some sharpshooters, you know, she can be a pretty decent option because she can tank so much with that gadget. You know, Hot Zone, of course, she's fantastic there to get a lot of percentage, because people just spend so much trying to take down that clone of yours. You know, Heist, she can get so much damage. I think everywhere, maybe except for Knockout, she's a super viable option. Okay, so jumping into the next brawler, which I think is always under the radar and is actually a super strong brawler right now, it is Ruffs. So again, Ruffs is literally never banned. I think the only few maps that might be banned out a little bit is Split and Hard Rock Mine, but if he's not banned out on those 2 maps, it's basically a free win if you get your hands on him. So, you know, maps where there's a lot of walls, you can get so much advantage with him. And a good thing about Ruffs, of course, he may struggle sometimes against aggro, but you've got your super. If you just hold on to your super, if there's an aggro brawler, you should be able to take them down pretty easily. And of course, once you start breaking up the map a lot easier, then you should be able to deal with aggro pretty well. So it's good hybrid in that sense, and it actually does a surprising amount of damage as well. But Ruffs is always that forgotten brawler. People always forget that he exists in the like mid-tier whenever I see people talk about the meta. You know, in terms of like even layer cake is used. I've seen him used a lot in dry season as well. Bounty, you know, if you're looking for a passive brawler that can slowly give your teammates power-ups, he's amazing. You know, Brawl, I've seen him use a ton. Gem grab, I've seen him used pretty much everywhere there as well. You know, Crystal Arcade to break open the lanes. Harder at Mine is just obviously insane there. Hot Potato, he's used a lot of the times as well to break open the map as much as possible. And he's basically a better version of Rico. So for me, he's pretty much viable everywhere, just depends on how you play him. Okay, so jumping into the next brawler you should be looking to play a lot more often, it is Gray. So this isn't the only time I've put him in this type of video. I've probably mentioned him a few times already, but Gray, again, is a brawler which is just never banned, but he's actually extremely powerful right now. I'd actually say that it could be getting close to the top 10 rankings in the game right now, because he has so much slaying power. His gadget allows him to finish off kills so quickly. He's able to pounce on brawlers that are around the kind of 5k and below mark, because he can just quickly tap them a few times and then kill them, and he can just cycle his super so quick. So I've seen him used pretty much everywhere. You know, shooting star, I've seen him in the mid to counter specific throwers, because of course you can just pull them through the wall and then just super onto them. I've seen him used literally everywhere in bounty. You know, I've seen people pop off so much with him on both dry season and layer cake. You know, Brawl, he can get some really quick goals with his super, and a lot of times people just underrate him there. I've seen him used a few times in Heist. Probably isn't his best game mode, but I've seen him used in Kaboom Canyon, for example, to get across the lake with your super and just allow you to continue the aggression a lot more. And then of course I've seen him a lot in parallel plays and a lot in splits. So with all these walls about, it actually helps Gray out a lot more. Okay, so jumping into the next brawler you should be looking to max out and play a lot more in Power League, it is Bonnie. So Bonnie, again, is a brawler which is pretty much never banned, but she's extremely powerful. I could have easily put her in the S tier. A lot of people were saying that as well. To me, she's fantastic. So I see used a lot in bounty. You know, she's a sharpshooter. You know, sometimes she get countered by those long range brawlers, but then you can just pop your gadget and give that additional speed and that additional DPS. And then of course you got your super to counter those long range brawlers. So she's a fantastic option on pretty much every single bounty map. You know, Brawl, I've seen her use a lot. Again, she's this brawler that comes and goes out of the meta weirdly enough, but I've seen her plenty of times. You know, I've seen her in pin-up punt a lot of times in competitive. I've seen her in field goal. I've seen her in a lot of different scenarios. You know, gem grab, she's probably more so of a weaker mode. Not really seen her too much there, but still can be viable. Heist, that is her best game mode by far because you can easily just bypass any sort of aggression kind of in the middle. You know, for example, if you're on safe zone, there's always that awkward fight in the middle, but you can just catapult yourself onto the enemy safe and get so much pressure. You know, pressure on the safe really does wonders when it comes down to heist. And then, of course, hot zone, being able to gain back some control, really fantastic. And same with knockout. So, yeah, Bonnie, never banned, but is super powerful within this meta. All right, guys, so jumping into the final brawler, which you should be looking at to max out and play a lot more, it is Gus. So again, just like Gray, how I mentioned time and time again, I'm going to keep mentioning it until people play these brawlers a lot more in Power League. But Gus has always been one of my favorite brawlers, and I think he's super powerful. So the good thing about Gus is that he's pretty flexible everywhere. He's actually a really decent counter to a lot of the good mids as well. You see, brawlers like B, a lot of times, just like RT can, you can 2-tap B and then use your gadget to kill her. I think it's fantastic, and you can of course use that to defend yourself against aggro brawlers as well. He's a really solid option in bounty. The good thing about Gus, he's got a really easy to hit shot, and then of course you got your super, which can give you additional DPS. He's really good in hot zone paired with some good aggressive brawlers as well, and he's just used a lot. Like I've seen a lot in gem grab. I see him as a decent like mid in Brawl, for example. And of course, in knockout, he's always my safe brawler as well. So Gus is probably the one brawler that I recommend trying out as much as possible because I think he's secretly really strong. All right, guys, it's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. So let me know what you think of my suggestions. You know, try to consider as much as possible like brawlers that are basically near the S tier, but are never banders. So of course, they can be fantastic options to max out because you actually get to play them. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.